What's going on, guys? It is your boy Junior from PNP Customs coming back at you with another video. Today we're going to be talking about this 2018 Infiniti QX80. This video can also apply to Nissan Armadas, but today we're going to be installing an Android radio. This specific head unit is not just a radio upgrade, but also an interior upgrade. It gives you a more modern look because it changes the position of your air vents and giving you new buttons as well, changing the overall look of the center dash. Now, this head unit is designed to recuperate every single feature, so no inconvenience, just convenience. So for example, if you have the 360 backup camera, you will recuperate that. If you have the Bose audio system that comes factory with the Nissan Armada or the Infiniti QX80, all that stuff is meant to be recuperated. Steering wheel controls and so on and so forth. The one thing I can say that isn't recuperated by itself is the rear entertainment system. That can still work with the new Android radio, but you do have to do a little bit of an extra install there. That install includes running HDMI cables to the back with a splitter. Of course, the first step in the process of installing the new Android radio is to remove the old one. The first step in that process is to remove the center console, and in order to do that, we have to remove the gear shifter. It's going to have a pin lock that you can pull out with a flathead or a hook like I do. You want to be sure not to lose this. This is a very important piece, so I recommend getting a plastic bag to put all the screws and pin lock in. Up next, you want to get a popper prier tool to remove the center console with. It's not held in with any screws, just tabs, so you just have to pry on it correctly and it will come loose. Once you get the bottom half loose, it's going to be easier for you to get your hands in between both sides and remove it. If I'm doing this with one hand, you guys can easily do this with two. And before it's completely free, you have to unplug two harnesses that are connected to the center console. You want to remember exactly where they were plugged in. That way you know exactly how to do it again once we're putting everything back together. Up next is this other panel that we have to remove. Again, no screws, is just clips. So as long as you tug on it properly, it will come free. At the top, it does kind of have a hook, so you have to lift it up upwards exactly how I am. Super simple process. Like I said, I always try to persuade my clients to install the units themselves just because it's so easy and I feel like anyone can do it. And who doesn't want to save any money, am I right? So up next, you have to remove these Phillip heads. You have two on each side. Again, remember not to lose these screws. We're going to have to put them back exactly where they were before. The bottom two screws were the only thing that was holding onto this bezel, so now you can pry it off with your hands. Again, all just clips. You're going to have a couple of harnesses in the back that you're going to have to unplug. And by the way, there's a harness back here that you don't have to unplug. It simply just jumps signal. It doesn't go into the car, so you don't have to unplug that the way we did. That's going to reveal this one Phillip under the navigation display. You can also remove that one. Doing this will mean that there's nothing else holding onto the air vent trim. Now, mind you, this piece is a little more fragile than the panels before, so just be very careful with it, and it will come off just like ours did. Right after that, now we can remove the two Phillips that are holding into the original navigation display. Again, before you remove it, you're going to have a couple of harnesses back there that you need to unplug. We're almost done with the disassembly process. Now we just have to remove the original radio or the DVD player, you can say. So you're going to have to pull this bezel downwards. You don't have to remove it completely, just enough leeway in order to get these screws out. Now, the brackets that hold onto the original DVD player are very sharp, so I recommend getting some kind of microfiber towel or like a sweater, anything that prohibits it from scratching the panels. Once you pull it away from the car as much as possible, you can now unplug all of the harnesses. Each time you unplug a harness, it's going to become more loose and loose, so you can keep pulling it outwards to make it easier the more farther down you go. Once you unplug everything, it's not going to be free completely yet because you have to remove this tab right here. You can either break it off, cut it off, or release it like I do. It has two pins on each side. You push those two in and it'll come out like a triangle. That's it. You're all done. We're all done with the disassembly. Now we have to get ready to install this brand new head unit. But before we do that, we can admire how gorgeous this radio looks. Even when it's off, you can just tell it's going to be a massive difference. And I mean, just comparing it to the old one, not only is the original one very outdated for the year that it's made, but it comes with little functions. So like I said, not only is it a visual upgrade, but you also get a lot of convenience from it. If you order it from us, this is exactly what you get from your package. You'll get 3 main harnesses, and then you'll get your accessory harnesses. Don't worry, I know it looks a little overwhelming, but you actually only have to use one of the main harnesses, and most of the accessory harnesses are extras. And by the way, there's 3 types of harnesses because there's 3 types of factory radios that come with the Nissan Armada and Infiniti QX80. So depending on which one you have, that will determine which harness to use. We have pictures, documents, and diagrams to help you install this. So if you bought it from us and you're having a little bit of issues or a little lost, don't hesitate on reaching out. We'll just ask to see the back of your factory radio or the DVD player, and we'll know exactly what harness you need to use. And before we head into the car and start plugging in some harnesses, you have to remove this chrome bezel off of the original piece. That's going to go into the new one. So exactly how the old one was held in place, you're going to use that same idea on the new one. So transfer over the screws, line it up properly. It's going to go in a little tight. Don't worry, it's designed that way. So just make sure that the males are going into the females or they'll break off. After it clicks into place, use the original screws to hold it in. Now there's something very important that has to go back into the car. You're going to use a Torque 20 screwdriver to remove these screws right here. This cream color box that's attached to the DVD player is actually a special module that's in charge of a lot of things in the car. If you unplug this and don't put it back in and you turn on the car, you're going to have a couple of codes on the dash and I think the AC won't work. So it's very important to put this back. Now we don't offer any brackets to hold it into place behind the radio. So you're just going to have to plug it in and just leave it loose back there. Up next, you're going to find and isolate these three: the 4G antenna, the GPS antenna, and also the female for the rear backup camera. These we're going to plug in right now just because it makes it a lot easier. If you wait to install these afterwards while we're installing the radio inside the car, you're not going to have any space to do these. It's a tight space to work in, but as long as you use 2 fingers, you should be able to screw in the 4G antenna and the GPS antenna. Make sure to not stop screwing the antennas until it feels tight. That way you know it makes a good connection. This plug with the female RCA doesn't have to be plugged into the car yet, so we're just going to plug it into here. That way you don't lose it. That female is going to go into the first female of the back of the radio. It's supposed to click, that way you know it has good connection. And this is what it's going to look like after you're done. The GPS antenna we're not going to mess with right now, but you can pull the lining off of the 4G antenna and stick it onto the back of the radio, just because this can really be stuck anywhere. After that, you are all done preparing the unit for the installation. By the way, you don't have to plug in anything here. These buttons work by themselves through CAN bus. This is the module I was telling you guys to remove from the DVD player bracket. So this, you're just going to stick it behind the radio. Now we're going to be talking about the main harness. So the main power will plug into this harness right here. You'll see a thick yellow and black wire coming from behind of it. Remember to plug them all the way in. You'll hear it click to verify that it's making a good connection. The next female that comes out of the main harness is the antenna FM adapter. So that's going to go in here. This is to recuperate your original FM stations. This right here is a CAN bus data plug. It's very hard to miss. It's one of the biggest females. That's going to plug into this one right here. Again, we're looking to hear that click. You'll have another data plug that comes out of the main harness. Looks like the bottom one that we just plugged in. The difference is that this one has a yellow RCA coming out of it. Do not confuse the two. That yellow male plugs into the yellow female behind the radio, but we'll talk about that later. Up next, you have this plug right here. That's going to plug in right next to the one that we just plugged in. That's the one behind the navigation display. You'll hear it click. Then you'll have this black 4-pin connector to recuperate the original USB input at the bottom. So you're going to go ahead and look for this USB 4-pin. You're going to push them in. It's going to be a tight fit. Don't worry about it. Just make sure that it goes in all the way. You'll hear it click as well. And then now, once you plugged it in behind the radio, you recuperate your original USB. In the accessory bag, you'll find this 4-pin single USB connector. The female is going to go into this male, and then the 4-pin is going to go behind the radio. Up next, you'll have the 6-pin double USB connector alongside the audio output connector that comes with the SIM card input as well. These two, we're going to run them to the glove compartment here. That way they're out of sight, out of mind. You're going to feed them through behind the radio. There's a huge gap here that you can stick your hand behind, and you'll be able to squeeze both through. If you do this properly, the glove compartment should still close perfectly fine, and just make sure to keep routing all of your mails up to the original navigation display pocket, because that's where all the plugs are going to plug into. It should look something like this when you're done. I messed up here organizing my harnesses, so just make sure to unplug them if you did it exactly how I did and plug them from the back. That way when you're installing the control panel, they're not in the way, but they are plugged properly, so just make sure that they're going exactly where they were before. In the end, you'll have nothing overlapping the bezel and everything is coming from under and above. You will have to run the external microphone. I know this is kind of a bummer for some people, but the original microphone is a different kind of signal that the Android radio cannot recuperate. So if you want people to hear you properly when you're on the phone or giving a voice command, you have to run it properly all the way behind the radio, and you'll plug it into the female mic input. It should be labeled as well. That female is located behind the SIM card connector, so you can actually plug that in right now. So just make sure it clicks in and boom, you're done. Remember, we already plugged in our 4G connector. Up next is the GPS antenna. That one's going to plug into the back of the head unit, right on the other side of this open space right here. So you see where my hands are at. Right here is super flat and there's no metal above it, so you should be able to stick it right there. Now we can actually start plugging everything in. So the SIM card connector, also the audio output connector, that's going to be the first one here. You're looking to hear a click. Up next is the 4-pin single USB adapter that we installed to recuperate the original USB. That's going to plug into the second one. The FM transmitter goes into the green hole here. Make sure it goes in all the way, that way you get good retention. The CAN bus 8-pin connector is very important to install. This is going to go right next to the USBs. This is important because it's controlling the climate control and also the steering wheel controls. Up next is the double USB 6-pin. That one's going to go also right next to the 4-pin USB. And by the way, all these have different pin sizes, so each plug is a different shape, so it's hard to plug in the wrong one where it doesn't go. So you can also just compare them to the females. If it's too big or too small, then obviously it's not meant to go there. Now the main power plug, it's going to be a little difficult. You have to bend it exactly how I'm doing so because you're going to enter it at an angle. Of course, you can't put it directly in just because the clip is in way, but just make sure that the black head is going straight in just because you don't want to bend any of the pins. You'll hear it click once it goes fully in. Now this is very important to install, that way you don't lose the backup camera. So you have the male that comes out of the main harness and the female that comes out from the back of the radio. You plug those two in and you recuperate your original backup camera. That's it, we're all done. Now we just have to organize all of the wiring. So as you're pushing the radio closer to the dash, you have to push the wiring into the pocket. That way it doesn't prohibit you from clicking the radio in place. Now, of course, like I said, I'm saying organize because you're not meant to push it in with force. If you push it in with force, then you will break a wire or pull a wire. So just make sure everything is going in nice and snug. Oh, and by the way, completely my fault. I forgot that you have to transfer over these chrome clips that are in the original AC bezel. So take them off of the old one and put them onto the new one. It should look like this. Now, of course, before you screw everything in, you want to make sure that everything works properly. If it does, then now you can do everything that we did to uninstall the original radio in reverse. That way we can put everything back together. Don't worry, you'll have a couple of plugs loose back there just because the original DVD player is no longer needed. So just make sure everything that's meant to go in plugs in properly fine. We also had our baggie to not lose the original screws and clips. So after you put everything back together, now we can head into the best part of the video, which will be the showcase. So I'll see you guys there. Now, before we head into the showcase, let's troubleshoot a couple things. So sometimes when you reverse, you might have double lines here. So you'll have the original one and then the aftermarket one. To make the aftermarket one go away, hit on line settings, and then you're going to press the view angle. You're going to lower it down all the way just so you don't see the lines. There is a setting to turn it off, but that changes within the Android version, so it's better just to do it this way. Up next, let's say you have the issue of the steering wheel controls not working. This is rare, but it could happen, but it's a simple fix. So you go into apps, hit on control, and then you're going to program your keys manually. So just press X to reset it. Now, when you press on a button, it's going to tell you to click on what that button does. Even if your steering wheel controls are working fine, you should still head into this app because you might want to change what they actually do to make it more convenient for you. But after you do that, the steering wheel controls should work perfectly fine now. One final thing you might want to change is the unit setting for the radio. So since this radio is sold in China and in Canada, they have kilometers and Celsius. Here in America, we use Fahrenheit and miles. So once you go into factory settings, the password is 3368. Go into original car agreement and then scroll all the way down to the point where you see temperature unit switch. And if you scroll even more down, then you'll also find the miles per hour. For other troubleshooting issues or other questions, you guys can definitely hit us up and we'll help you out. But now we can head into the best part of the video, which would be the showcase. Now look at that brand new looking interior, giving you a more modern interface with more functions and of course not losing the old ones. As you guys saw, the rear camera works perfectly fine. So when you hit reverse, it shows you the reverse image, and when you put it back in drive, it works perfectly fine. Steering wheel controls also being recuperated through CAN bus by this unit as well. And if you had the Bose audio system, that's also sounding exactly the same. It even has an equalizer, so you can also tune your music to your liking. The CAN bus, as you can see, also has its own app to recuperate the original settings that were in the factory radio. And don't be under the assumption that your control panel is now useless. No, most of the buttons still work there. Now, not all of them will work just because since this is a new modern radio, some of the old functions don't get retained. Something the old radio didn't have as well is the digital climate control. So now you can control the climate control without touching the physical buttons. So once you hit climate, you have the digital screen come up and you can tap on the screen to have the climate control change. Now this brand new head unit is considered to be an Android tablet, so anything that your phone can do, this radio can do. As long as you give it Wi-Fi, you can download more apps, YouTube, Netflix, Prime Video, Hulu, whatever you want to do. And on top of that, you can also give it a SIM card, the one that we ran to the glove compartment, so you don't always have to give it Wi-Fi. It can run on its own data. But for now, just to give you guys an example, we're going to connect it to the business's Wi-Fi. We're going to head into YouTube. I'm going to show you guys the good color that it has, the saturation, and on top of that, how quick it is. You can click on any video, you can skip forward, and it'll work instantly. I obviously can't let you guys hear the music too much just because the video will get copyrighted and taken down, but you guys can take my word for it. It sounds amazing. And a big question that I get about most of my units is if it has a parking brake sensor. That means if you start driving, people assume that it stops playing the video. No, you can have a music video playing and you can continue to drive. It's not going to pause. Of course, you want to be very careful with that. That doesn't mean watch movies while you're driving. I shouldn't have to say that. That's pretty obvious, so always pay attention to the road. But yeah, back to the unit. So you have this ultra slim design, factory fitment, so it looks like it came from the dealership. Like this is original to the Nissan and Infinitis. And my personal opinion is that for the year that it is, it's definitely outdated, so it should have came with something like this or something close to it, so this upgrade wouldn't be so necessary. But because it's so outdated for the year, I would definitely recommend that this unit is something you should do for your car, whether you have a Nissan Armada or an Infiniti QX80, just because it's so easy to install. The display itself and also the brackets that it comes with is very sturdy, so you won't hear any rattling in the back, and you won't feel that the screen goes loosely backwards when you put your finger on it. And remember, this is something that the old radio didn't have: wireless phone connection, wireless CarPlay, and wireless Android Auto, so it works good on any phone that you have. So if you have an Android like LG, Pixel, or Samsung, then it would be this, Android Auto. And if you had an iPhone, on the other hand, it would be wireless CarPlay. They both do exactly the same thing, so you have your navigation. If somebody calls or texts you on here, you have a couple of apps on here as well. But yeah, you guys get the idea. I don't have to explain what CarPlay and Android Auto does. But in summary, these are functions and features that newer cars have that are super convenient, that it'll make your daily drive a lot more of a better experience. And for my old timers, yes, this does still recuperate the USB media function. So if you have a USB full of music, videos, and other documents and files, you can still plug those into the USBs and display them on the unit and hear them. And an extra function that you can also do with this Nissan Armada and Infiniti QX80 radio is that you can also add a music system, because remember, out of the SIM card connector, you had your front, your rears, and your subwoofer RCAs. So if you're the type to change the speakers, add amps, and a subwoofer, then this radio is perfect for you, because now you don't have to buy an audio processor or an equalizer. The radio already has that function. And of course, this is just a small showcase of what the radio can do. I've seen some people do some crazy stuff with this unit. Like I said, anything that your phone can do, this radio can do. And as I mentioned prior, this unit absolutely blew up in sales when we posted it on our Nissan Armada, and a whole bunch of QX80 owners were asking, hey, can I buy that same thing for my unit? And of course, after watching this video, the obvious answer is yes. Super easy to install, a almost necessary upgrade to your interior. You guys already know the link is in the description. Any kinds of questions, you hit us up here at PNP.